What's up, streamers, dreamers, and restorers? How are we this evening? Let's double check and make sure we are live here. Which I don't know that we are. Because this software really does not like me. Okay, we are live. Okay, so we are live. Thanks for joining tonight, y'all. It's another wonderful Wednesday evening. I hope you guys had a great day. As I like to say, the hump day, halfway point in the week. The week is almost over. Time for the weekend. No. So, cool, guys. Super excited about tonight's episode. Glad you could join me. We got a ton planned. Ton on the agenda for this evening. Ton I want to talk about. So, snuggle in. Grab your favorite snack, grab your pipe, whatever you need to relax, and let's live stream. Let's get green. So look how excited I'm. So excited. I finally got my walking stick in with a morel mushroom on there, hand carved into the tops. This is the first thing I want to talk about. So cool. So when I'm out on my detrashes or if I'm out foraging for mushrooms, this is going to be my go-to. It's beautifully made. Can't recommend it enough, guys. Definitely check out this guy's stuff here. Creation Carvings, God's given talent, God's created wood. It just totally awesome. Tons of cool hand-carved stuff here, straight from the Ozarks. There was so many that I could have got, but I just decided that I wanted to go with the morel mushroom because it was just so cool. So, yeah, guys, support local businesses, and if you like walking sticks, check this guy's stuff out. Tons of cool stuff. So, you'll be seeing that on future detrash and cleanup episodes, where we'll be having some fun. We'll be having some fun cleaning up the junk. So, super stoked about that. Happy summer, guys. It feels good. Nature's turning too. I hope you guys are getting out there, getting that healing energy from the sun, the vitamin D, and the clean air from all of our plant comrades and friends. Truly good stuff for the body, heart, and mind, soul. So first thing on today's topic, we're going to go right back to this, the ESA, Ecological Society of America. I love this. Been tracking this for a while now here, and we got another cool little study here. We're not going to go over the whole study. It's just the abstract in the beginning, but super interesting stuff. I love this kind of stuff, getting deep into the science of the planet if we can. I am no ecologist or scientist, but I feel like if any of us indulge enough of our time into caring about it, we can at least become a little bit more informed about what's going on with our whole situation. So this one specifically is about exotic tree species have consistently lower herbivore load in a cross-Atlantic tree biodiversity experiment. So here's all the fancy names. I'm not going to go through them all here. But the handling editor, Matthew L. Forrester. This article has been accepted for publication, undergone full peer review, but has not been through the copying, typesetting, pagination, and proofreading process, which leads to differences between the version and record. Please cite the article as blah, blah, blah. Yeah, God bless the good men and women who do this kind of work, where you've got to go through so many different layers of stuff to get your work out there. But moving on. Abstract. It's commonly expected that the exotic plants experience reduced herbivory, but experimental evidence for such enemy release is still controversial. One reason for conflicting results might be that the community context has rarely been accounted for. Although the surrounding plant diversity may moderate enemy release, here we tested the effects of focal tree origin and surrounding tree diversity on herbivore abundance and leaf damage in a cross-Atlantic tree diversity experiment in Canada and Germany. We evaluated 6 European tree species paired with 6 North American conures in both their native and exotic range, expecting lower herbivory for the exotic tree species in each parity site. Okay, so they were expecting these European tree species mixed with the North Americans in their native ranges. They were expecting lower herbivory. Such reciprocal experiments have long been called for but have not been realized thus far. In addition to a thorough evaluation of overall enemy release effects, we tested whether the enemy release effects change with the surrounding tree diversity. Herbivore abundance was indeed consistently lower on exotics across all 6 tree genera, 12 comparisons. This effect, exotic statics, was independent of continent, phylogenetic relatedness, and surrounding tree diversity. In contrast, leaf damage associated with generalist leaf chewers was consistently higher on North American tree species. Interestingly, several species of European weevils were the most abundant leaf chewers on the continents and the dominant herbivores on the Canadian site. Thus, the most observed leaf damage likely reflects the effect of the generalist herbivores that feed heavily on plant species they have not evolved with. At the German site, sapsuckers were dominant herbivores and showed a pattern consistent with enemy release. Taken together, the consistently lower the herbivory on exotics on both continents is purely not a pattern of enemy release in the strict sense, but to some degree additionally reflects the sustainability of native plants on invasive herbivores. In conclusion, our cross-Atlantic study is consistent with the idea that non-native trees have generally reduced herbivory, regardless of tree community diversity and species identity, but for different reasons depending on the dominant herbivore guild. So, wow, yeah, super interesting, guys. So it looks like different animals, based on the herbivores, based on the type of plant species that they like to eat. If you import some of these, from foreign places, they won't eat them, or they reduce the amount that they're eating consistently. So I mean, they want to snack on stuff that they've been around, which is super interesting. Obviously, it would make sense, but it just goes to show how when a species gets stuck in their ways on something, they get stuck in their ways. So I thought that was super interesting. Go check that one out, guys. Really cool. So we're going to move on to a little bit of a depressing thing here. This kind of made me sad, but I think it's something that we all have to come to terms with. Cool article from the Los Angeles Times, the LA Times. The times, they are changing, they said. So, yeah, I mean, obviously a pretty powerful picture right over here. The tribe was barred from cultural burning for decades. Then a fire hit their community. The land near Yosemite Park has been tended by Irene Vasquez's family for decades. They took care of their 7 acres by setting small fires to thin vegetation to help some plants grow. But the steep, sharp, row-studded slopes surrounded by the property hasn't seen fire since Vasquez and fellow members of the South Sierra Miwok Nation were barred from practicing cultural burning on the wider scale of some 100 years ago. When a wildfire swept through in July, the dense vegetation stoked flames destroyed Vasquez's home and transformed the land into a scarred moonscape. With that, she became one of the many indigenous residents to watch her ancestors' territory burn in recent years, despite knowing the outcome could have been different. If we were able to impart that wisdom and knowledge to the European settlers, to the agencies, to not stop our burning, we would be in a way different place, Vasquez said. Cultural burning and the practice of using controlled fires to tend to the landscape was once in many indigenous groups and ended with the arrival of European settlers. So yeah, guys, this is like 101 here. Obviously, indigenous peoples who are going to have a lot more knowledge, they've been on the continent for a lot longer, about how to properly tend to the planet and tend to their environment. They know how to do these controlled burns. I mean, this has been going on. This is a practice forever. Cultural burning. I mean, it's good for the soil if it's done right, and you avoid disasters like this where one big fire can wipe out everything. So it's just incredible how even today some of these indigenous cultures just keep getting shit on. It's quite bullshit. Nobody talks about reparations for them or any kind of help for them, or It's you know, it's kind of sad, but I think that there's going to be change with this in the future. But really sad story here. I mean, it's like the fact that they're not allowed to. We're going to tell them what they can and can't do with their land, and it's their land that's been removed, you know, a dozen times over because they've been bounced around all over the place. So, hot topic here, guys. Super hot topic. But yeah, I mean, we're not letting them do the cultural burning. So now many experts say the lack of regular low-intensity fire in some California ecosystems contributed to an overgrowth of vegetation that has many wildfires grow larger and more severe. In a cruel irony, Native Americans are the most affected. Well, I mean, isn't that just why does that happen? That's just sad. Indigenous residents are over 3 times more concentrated in California census tracts that see fires more frequently where most acre burns, according to a study by UC Irving researchers published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. Yeah, I mean, yikes. Members of the Karuk tribe lost homes when the Slater fire burned hundreds of properties in Siquio County in 2020. The Mountain Meadow saw their Greenville Rancheria office and health facilities destroyed and the landscape severely damaged when the Dixie Fire tore through the heart of their homelands the following year. In July, multiple members of the Southern Sierra and Miwok Nation were displaced in the Oak Fire, which destroyed more than 100 homes in the Mariposa County. The following month, the fast-moving McKinney Fire, which killed 4 people, destroyed a building that housed Karuk tribal archives and resulted in a massive die-off of fish in the Calumet River, a hub for ceremonial activities. I mean, come on, guys. Come on, guys. That's madness. So, yeah, California just seems to be a disaster of a state. You know, it's just a microcosm for how we've been running the whole country. Just exploit, draw as many resources out as you can, smoke and mirrors, kick the can down the road, increase the debt ceiling, you know, tell the companies, slap, minor fines on their wrists for doing pollution. It's just, what is it going to end? When is it going to end? When is there finally going to be some accountability and finally some healing, finally some restoration? It's just crazy to me that people don't want to be more active in this fight to save our environment. And it's not only environment; it's our kin. I mean, our indigenous peoples, looks like specifically in California here, based on where they're living or where they, hundreds of homes, and nobody's probably helping these people. I mean, there's things that you can't even put a price on. The fish die-offs and them losing their versions of museums where they have cultural or tribal archives and whatever else they have in these buildings. It's a goddamn shame. For Vasquez, another Sierra Nation's recovery has been complicated by a 40-year legal battle for federal recognition. As an unrecognized tribe, the group is ineligible for many types of government aid. Its operations are supported by volunteer work, donations, grants received through its associated nonprofit. The American Indian Council in Maricopa County raised more than $100,000 through the Oak Fire Relief Fund. Okay, we're going to make sure we bookmark this because this is going to get donated to. Let's go ahead and make sure we do that. We have a lot of people left with nothing, said Clay River, who at the time of the fire was director of the Miwataga Healing Center, which serves as a hub for tribal health and social services. Some people weren't able to make it home to try to get the stuff. They were just, closing their back. I mean, you hear these stories and it's just horrifying. All their stuff burned up. Trees of life. Early European explorers of California consistently described open park-like woods dominated by oaks in an area where the forest transitions to a zone mainly of conifers such as pines, firs, and cedars. The park-like woodlands were no accident. For thousands of years, indigenous people have tended these woods. Oaks are regarded as the tree of life because of their many uses. Their acorns provide nutritious food for people and animals. Indigenous people have used low-intensity fires to clear litter and underbrush and nurture the oaks as productive orchards. Burning controls insects and promotes growth of culturally important plants and fungi among the oaks. Debris, brush, and small trees consumed by low-intensity fire. Yep, there's our fungi and plants. This is the key to our whole existence here, guys. Our stewardship of this planet has been awful. It's just a goddamn shame. The stewardship reduced the risk of devastating wildfires, periodically clearing of the underbrush and understory. The tree growth reduces lighter fuels and can channel the flames into the treetops. These burns once occurred in and around hundreds of southern Sierra villages that dotted the Yosemite Valley and others around the Mariposa County. But in 1850, as the gold rush transformed the area into a mining free-for-all, the legislature passed a law that essentially codified the slavery of indigenous peoples and facilitated their removal from the lands, prohibited the use of cultural fire. Around the same time, the state-sponsored militias undertook efforts to exterminate them. Once Yosemite National Park was formed in 1890, those southern Sierra Miwok who had survived were no longer allowed to gather there or help to manage the landscape. They were treated as if they had no historical knowledge by the people that were coming in to, unquote, preserve the land, River said. Yeah, wow, look at how stunning that is. We're in real jeopardy of completely ruining this, guys, permanently. I just don't understand how we could be so careless. It's fascinating to me, truly. What are you gonna do? Just gotta keep up the fight somehow. Yeah, the last. We're not fully removed from Yosemite until 1969. Yeah, and anything that's not burned down is logged. Denser stands for younger trees to grow up in their place, no longer subjected by regular culling invasive plants. Pockets of forest haven't seen any fire intentionally, naturally speaking, in nearly a century. Hotter, drier conditions resulting in climate change have helped ensure this dense vegetation is primed to burn. Fire officials cited these conditions as factors in the growth of the 19,000-acre oak fire, which they described as primarily driven by heavy fuels, including conifers killed by drought. Without federal regulation, Southern Sierra and Miwok Nation has no land on which to practice burning. It's ineligible for funding that's available to other tribes for land stewardship, education, job placement, training, cultural preservation work, community economic development. Unlike members of other tribes who worked as cultural monitors of the oak fire, coats were ineligible to be work paid for. The tribe petitioned for recognition in 1882, 4 years after the feds created the process. During the protracted proceedings that followed, they have provided thousands of pages of evidence proving their descent from Miwok people who signed at least 2 treaties, blah, 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 blah. Okay. When are we going to get these people their respect? They probably doesn't mean shit. At some point during the OFA's lengthy review process, enough to reach a positive determination become not enough evidence and a negative determination. Yep, still fucking these people, huh? Just unbelievable. For no reason. We gotta start to get angry about this, but not angry in a way that's not controlled. You need to channel that anger and deal with these problems head on. More generally said, the federal acknowledgement process is a fact-intensive and expensive regulatory framework seems designed to defeat petitions, especially those from small California tribes that lack the funds to retain the attorneys experts necessary to navigate the complex regulations. Yeah, I mean, they don't have the money for the lawyers to be able to withstand these years-long battle in court to deal with this. I mean, California is such a gigantic state, bureaucratic mess, mismanaged and misrun. It's such a shame, too, because there's just such a vast ecosphere of beauty there, including Yosemite Park, that's getting ravaged. Again, I'm shout out to Dane Wigington. He's trying to do the best he can up there in Northern California, up there by Mount Shasta, at preserving that little ecosphere up there and that environment up there. But it's just as prone to all these controlled burns and and not controlled burns. People don't really want to realize either, and what the LA Times and some of these other articles will never ever admit is that we have to accept the fact that geoengineering and chemical spraying is also contributing to how these trees are drying out and dying and burning so quickly. This is another one of these examples where we created a solution that ends up being an even bigger problem. They spray these nanoparticulates into the air of strontium, barium, aluminum, God knows what else, these little concoctions. They put them on the side of these jets and spray all over the place in hopes that, we're going to reflect some of that heat to avoid some of the global warming. And, I guess it works in some places, but those metals land somewhere, and they land in rivers, and they land in the ocean, and they land on trees. And not only that, even when they're hovering in the air, they kind of also act as, as some of the light and the UV and the other radiation gets through, it also traps some of the other stuff in. So a lot of the science is wishy-washy anyway. Once again, in the West, even in the modern times, we're just one step forward, two steps backwards as far as figuring out effective ways to manage society and manage ecology. We've got a lot to learn from indigenous people. We've got a lot to learn as Westerners, for sure. I think that a combination of these two things in a new era can help literally restore the planet. And I'm very optimistic. We just got to keep on fighting. We got to do what we can to help people like this out that just keep getting stepped on. Eventually, the planet's going to respond in kind. Oh yeah, the double rainbow guy passed away. Wow, so they were part of the story. Just feels like justice isn't happening for us, she said, and it doesn't feel like it's getting any easier. Alex Wigglesworth. Well, thank you for writing that, Alex. Whoever you are, somebody's talking about it. These indigenous people's getting screwed over. Just brutal, guys. So yeah, donate to this if you can. Okay, moving on. Yeah, so that's another. This I've talked about this before in a previous episode of the live stream. This is make sure you guys bookmark this site, bankingonclimatechaos.org. This is definitely one of the biggest ways that you can help participate in helping indigenous peoples get justice, helping everybody, holding everybody accountable and helping the planet get better. Because we're in deep shit. And these are the people that need it the most. These are the people that have been exploited the most. So, we really need to focus on solutions. And the constant pipelines, the constant addiction to oil is never really going to fix anything. So, we got to do something. And we need to do it working together. Yeah, look at that number. That's a lot of resources, time, management, labor. It's a lot. That's a lot, And I hate being a climate alarmist, and I don't really care what side of the argument you're on. It doesn't matter. What's clearly evident is that there's definitely certain communities that are hit harder than others when it comes to anything, but especially climate change, because poverty is the number one indicator for a lot of different things. And if you can help out in ways, in any way possible, guys, that's definitely going to be one of my goals here too in a lot of the upcoming episodes and detrashes is to get into areas that have been neglected and help keep them clean too, so that everybody can have, enjoy a clean, safe living environment. We forget what's right beneath our feet is the earth. Is chemistry. It's in us. It's the same stuff that's in us. It's very simple. Let's take care of it. Let's take care of it. Let's take care of each other. So, yeah, definitely cool movement to get behind here, guys. Definitely download that fossil fuel finance report. We went over the 2022 one. We can go over the 2023 one later in a future episode. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys to definitely check out ESA. Spend some time on their site. Lots of good stuff. And if you can, yeah, get some fire relief fund dollars out there. It doesn't matter how much or how little. Even awareness can help probably if you just share it. And then, yeah, let's make sure we start holding some of these companies that are exploiting everything accountable. I think year by year we're doing a little bit better. But we all know who the big players are in all this. So I'm not saying, we need to whatever the reset is that everybody talks about in banking now, the great reset and all the crypto and all that. Oh, that stuff's wishy-washy nonsense to me. Obviously we've dug our hole. We're gonna have to live in it. But if we can combine species-wide all of our knowledge and all of our resources to solve the problem, we have to. I don't know. You obviously can't get rid of big banks and big markets and big industries that are existing that turn the wheel of society. But what you can do is modify them. You can tweak them, and you can restore them, and fix them, and make them better, and try to consume less and build products that last longer, that mean something. That have care and put into them, and then when you do take, whether it's consuming anything, you consume as little as possible, and whatever you consume, well, not as little as possible, because people do need to be. This planet does have plenty of room for us to live abundantly, but we have to reciprocate. We can't just consume, because then the equation's unbalanced. We have to consume, and then we have to produce. And those have to be in balance. Everything, we have to be in rhythm. So we just got to tune our thoughts and our emotions towards the planet and towards the spirit. And I think that if we can each day learn how to do that better and better, and each day work on fixing the issue, getting rid of the trash, switching to greener tech, helping out indigenous peoples who have been kind of screwed over, obviously, for quite some time. That's all important. So, cool, guys. We're going to end, as we always do, with the late, great Terence McKenna. I'm not going to keep you guys a while tonight, but I just want to go over one of Terence's really cool speeches. This one's definitely relevant. He talks about nature. So I'll try to say it in Terrence's voice, even though there's just no way to do it. Just go listen to his lectures, guys. I don't know. I'm sure it's a broken record right now. I've said it ad nauseum over and over again, but he's definitely a guide to help. I think that was sent, and that is going to help. His words are transforming the human experience and how we exist here on the planet Earth. So I've always had a relationship with nature that I pretty much took for granted, but perhaps somewhat unique and more intense than most people. I grew up in a small town in Colorado. I was very early into being a rock hound and a butterfly collector. The attraction of tropical butterflies was the exuberant expanse of color. The affirmation of pattern richness in the universe was seen to be thrown out like spark by these things. This search for iridescence thrown off by nature, seen first in the glint of metallic ore crystals, and then in the colorful expanse of butterflies, and then in tropical fish, reached a kind of apotheosis with the discovery of psychedelic plant hallucinogens, where suddenly the color of the flash, the iridescence, is not 2 or 3 dimensional, it's multidimensional, and it's inside the body and it's outside the body. I came to see that nature as experienced, meaning as it hits you when you walk around in it and pick it and carry it with you, has been bred out of the repertoire of images that most people bring to bear on their reality. Consequently, the reality is despirited. The spirit resident in nature is not visible when these mechanistic grids are laid over it. It seems to me that nature is psyche, in a way that has been occluded by the preserved development of language. We must take nature to be external to ourselves and sustained by the laws of physics. But it's not that at all. It is kind of a strontium of expectation that has been laid down by the human journey through time. There are elements of nature which are not aspects of human nature through time, but they are occult. This has been the strategy of science, to use an instrumentality to reveal the occult side of nature. The problem is that this occult side of nature, once explicated, does not reveal a satisfying reflection of ourselves. So, super powerful stuff there, guys. It seems to me that a small miracle is taking place. The thing that we least expected to happen, it is that our point of view is actually gaining ground. Sitting on the mountainside in Hawaii, you think you're like Lenin in Germany. You have to politically think it all through so that to the extent which one's voice can be heard, mistakes are not made. All this new age hustle and bustle, through 90% of it is just intellectual noise and efforts to coin the perfect analogy that fail, appears to may have become cutting edge of guiding image of this megaculture. So it becomes important for people who identify with the human potential movement, spiritual development, and the rebirth of intuition to make place in the plane for the role of nature. This is so important, guys. We got to get out there as much as we can. Get out and take a walk daily if possible. Leave your phone or turn off your phone. Put it in your pocket. Leave it off. Just go sit down in nature. It doesn't even have to be a walk. Just go listen. I have so much cool content that I've yet to decide to do what to do with, of me just laying low and setting the GoPro up and fixing it on a certain position and watching and listening, and being quiet, and just being able to go back and analyze that footage, and just somebody watching how you can kind of see the wind blowing through and carrying all the etheric information from the trees to each other, to us in the air, and the birds interacting with the squirrels, and it's just a fascinating thing. It's truly a healing experience. So I know you guys have heard it 1,000 times from a million different people, but I feel like the people who don't say it enough are your doctors and your average everyday people who should know better. The Gaia response claims nature is a stabilizing feminine force. That's definitely the image that has to emerge. The recognition of the presence of control mechanisms that are not coercive, that are Taoistic, is a way of coming to terms with nature that we have resisted. It is a simplistic idea. Before technology, people had to store firewood in the autumn for the winter. In the spring, they had to sharpen tools for late spring planting. There was an implicit rhythm laid down by nature that entered the human cosmos at every level and was reflected in poetry, culture building, and the evolution of language. There has been a flattening of the human dimension. Urbanization and other factors removed the influence of these rhythms, with the final culmination being the modern city, where life under electric light goes 24 hours a day. There's no more sense of being embedded in flux. There is instead the myth of the eternal culture. This right here, guys. That's what I'm talking about. Terrence just insanely gifted with words, for sure. I was at a conference recently where someone proposed the notion that our time is not special. that there is nothing unique about this moment. I think nothing could be further from the truth. There is no question that there is a deepening ambiguity in the present moment. There is something coming over the global civilization. It registers in all of us how weird it is, how compressed time is, how complicated the interconnections are. I think this is a real phenomenon which eventually will be elucidated. Eventually, there will be a break with the prevailing paradigm of historical process. In case you're not aware, the current prevailing paradigm is the one that calls itself the trendlessly fluctuating theory. It says, we trendlessly fluctuate. And to search for a trend is to be drawn into a cultural hysteria. Standing outside of the cultural hysteria, the trend is fairly clear. It is a trend towards a temporal compression and the emergence of ambiguity. Nature anticipates all of this and anchors it. Nature is actually the goal at the end of history. We are getting closer and closer to the end of history, and we will not go past it with the moment of blindness. There will be vouchsafed institutions about the emerging structure of the other into the culture as being subsumed. You're all familiar with the image of the Ouroboros. The snake takes in the nail in its mouth. The end of history is an archaic revival. The ground of being in which the original archaic renaissance occurred was nature. In terms of expression of design elements and in terms of expression of human relationships and political agendas, the economies of nature are going to set the guiding images. That's the point of the archaic revival, guys, right here. So let's do it. Let's do it. Let's let the economics of nature be the guiding image of how we move forward. So at least that's my take. Ha ha! Sorry, guys. Quick one tonight. Quick 30 minutes. Just wanted to check in. Say I love you. Do our typical go green ep. So keep doing your thing, y'all. Try to orient yourself towards nature. Get out there. Get out of the electronic grid for a little while. I'm not saying you have to run away into nature and reject it all, but there's nature spawned us for a reason, and then we spawned all this for a reason as well. And there's definitely some overarching reason that makes it all make sense. We just don't have the ability to understand it or understand it yet. But I certainly think that we're on our way to an archaic revival and an archaic renaissance, and I think that nature has to be at the forefront of it. So peace and love, guys. Live that green revolution, y'all. Take care. Have a good night.